All right, friends, welcome back to the Blessed Family Podcast. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Mrs. Amy Dodd, and today we're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to be talking about practical tips for marriage. Now, we've talked about that before, but this is going to be different. I've asked Amy to come up with 5 tips for husbands from a woman's perspective on being a better husband. And I've come up with 5 tips for wives on being better wives, and we haven't talked about them at all. So we're going to go back and forth and critique maybe, hopefully not too much critique, but yeah, we're going to say, oh yeah, that's a good point, and we're going to add to it. So I'm going to come with a man's perspective on wifehood, and you're going to confirm
I'm still minorly confused. When Jared told me what we were doing.
Yeah, she asked me like 5 times. Husbands, right?
Wait, what am I
Yes.
doing? 5 tips for who again?
So tip 1 is be patient with confused women. No, that actually doesn't count. Okay. So I've got my notes here, which you haven't seen.
I got my
You're not allowed to look
notes
at
on
my
phone.
notes. Okay. So ladies
how are we
first.
doing this?
We're just going to go
It's
back and forth.
Game. This is like a game show.
Game show. Except, I don't know.
There's
are there
no
any prize?
points.
Yeah, there's no points.
How about we award each other points?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
For how good we did.
5,000 points is the max.
Like whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, that's right.
Where the points don't matter.
The points don't matter. Not that we watch stuff like that.
Only when I'm in labor.
Yeah, it's true.
Just
actually.
to make me laugh.
Yeah, whenever she's in labor, it's been our tradition
Most
for the
babies.
last 5 babies at least.
I'd say half of them. Because when you laugh, totally random.
Right.
When you laugh when you're in labor, it just helps take any pain away if there's pain.
That's been our experience. All right, so ladies first, give us a good tip for, so husbands out there, they want to be better husbands. Give them a good tip on being a better husband.
My very first one I have, and I was trying to think not only maybe of myself, because everyone has their own different love languages, but also like anybody that we've ever done marriage counseling with or he's done marriage counseling with. So I thought for you ladies out there that you would like me to give this to your husbands. So number 1, men, make sure you talk and work through things.
That's great.
So,
That's huge,
here's what I have to say. When we first got married, Jared was more the woman in the relationship.
It sounds so bad.
And me more the man, because I didn't want to talk and work through things.
Which is not typical.
And
usually it's the opposite.
Most of the time it's switch. And he wanted to talk and work through
Probably
anything. Way overkill. So we've definitely both grown in these areas. But let me, if you're a wife and you're watching this, one thing you need to understand, I think, about guys, at least this is how I was when we'd get into an argument and I just couldn't talk about it anymore, is it would be emotionally exhausting, and sometimes I just couldn't process what was going on, and I needed an hour or an afternoon or a day to process, and then we could come back and talk about it. So men, make sure you're actively trying to
understand your wife.
And
talk about stuff.
About stuff, but women, be patient also.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Typically, women crave, and men do also, but emotional intimacy is really important for women, and so working things out, right? The wife has an issue, don't blow it off, men. Maybe you need a few minutes or a couple hours, but come back, listen to your wife, and work it out.
Okay, how many points do I get?
5,000 points.
Yes!
Okay, I think we're going to have a tie at the end, but who knows? Some of mine might be lame. Okay,
yours.
So here's my first one.
Okay.
This is advice for women. Okay, wives, with all due respect, sisters, my advice to you is, number 1, don't put additional stress on your husband. Generally speaking, meaning, husband, typically, like the perfect example is he comes home from work, he's tired, he just wants to come home, be with his wife, be with his children. He comes in and you're like, hey, this isn't working, we need to do this, you told me you'd paint this, da-da-da-da. And it kind of reminds me of Proverbs. It speaks multiple times of the nagging wife. So I'm not saying don't let your needs be known, but be very timely, and just know that most men are carrying quite a bit with the role of providing and protecting and just being spiritually the gate for the family. So be very selective and timely on how much extra weight you put on your husband.
Yes, and I just thought of an idea, which, to be honest, I don't know if we've ever done the idea I'm about to say, but it sounds like a good idea to me, is for wives, because actually, it's funny, because I actually have something that, one of my points goes along with this, so after we're done with this one, I might read my point to go with it. But like, so we're managing the home, right? So, but there's stuff that maybe needs to be done that we can't do because whether we're not skilled in it or we just need a stronger man, like, anyway. And so if your husband works long hours and comes home and just kind of wants to relax when he gets home, it might be worth it just to maybe make a list. Hopefully it won't get too long and overbearing, but then, like, would it be a good idea? Like, for instance, something needs to get done. Hey, I'd like this done within the next week. Something else is on the list. It's okay if this takes a couple months, which maybe that would be bad. I don't know if this is a good idea.
No, I think it's a good idea because you need to, well, this is just strategically making lists, like making lists help us.
Right.
When, because you're organized. You're like,
Well,
okay,
and
here's the to-do list. We
Jared
always have.
and I have no memory now.
We always, we need that. Just every other thing, like, okay, paint the house, number 1. Give me hugs and kisses, number 2. Just stagger it with.
Jared.
What? Just practical advice. Okay, your turn, number 2.
Okay.
Wait, was that it?
5,000 points.
All right, thank you.
Because it actually matched up with my number 2. So my number 2 was, so this is a tip for men. Men, your wives manage the home and they need help with things. So, for instance, the dishwasher breaks. Actually, it's funny because in our house, I'm usually the one who fixes the dishwasher, but something did break the other day and I asked Jared to fix it. And so you just as men, be mindful of what's going on. Like if you have clogged gutters, which that's something a woman could do too, but maybe she's too short.
Clogged gutters. Or she's 12 feet tall and can reach them.
There's such things as ladders.
Yeah, so
but anyway,
this is like give and take, right?
Men
This is like
being mindful that the woman manages the home, but that doesn't mean she does every single little thing and we need help.
I'm going to add to that. Men, the point my wife's making, I think, is be mindful that the home you provide for your wife is very important to your wife, and you need to be sensitive to that. You need to try to look at things through her eyes to see, because, for guys, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, this looks fine. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
But no, to try and say, okay, no, this is important to my wife, and as I'm able, I need to give.
Well, yeah, like if you have a leaky toilet, like for instance, we had a toilet.
A leaky toilet?
Well, like leaks in the back.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to...
Because it wasn't leaking all over the floor. Yes. But so I attempted probably 5 times to fix it. Normally, but I mean, there was some bigger issue than what I knew how to fix. So attempted multiple times. And then I would have to come to you and say, I cannot get it to work. And it did take, I think, a couple of days, but you got it.
Okay.
What's so funny about that?
That was good.
How many points?
5,000.
I'm up to 10,000.
Okay. I'm keeping tabs too. Okay, number 2. Okay. We're going to have to step on the gas.
Okay, go fast.
Okay, number 2. Okay, this is kind of long.
Okay.
But the next one's longer. I just had a hard time. Okay. Have an attitude. Okay, this is for wives. Wives. Yes. My personal advice to you is have an attitude that overall communicates that you love your life as a wife.
Yes.
And that you're excited. Like, if as a man I perceive, my perception of my wife is that she doesn't think she's blessed, that she's just miserable with her life, as a man, that it's like, what's the point?
It stinks.
Oh, yeah.
So multiple times a day, I try to tell Jared how blessed I feel, that he's my best friend. And I say all the time, I just don't, you're amazing. God, I can't believe God gave you to me. No, really. Or just even household stuff. It doesn't matter what kind of a neighborhood you live in or what kind of a house you live in. You should always be thankful. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, actually, that's a really good example because I knew this brother in Christ, and he's working hard. He's providing. They were renting out a house, and his wife was like, no, I need a, and she just wasn't.
Nicer neighborhood.
Or nicer house. This house you're giving, and she wasn't, she didn't have an attitude. This one couple told us one time that the husband's attitude is, I bless you. He wants to bless his wife, and that's a priority of his, and her response is, I'm blessed. And once again, so it's just, let me say it again, have an attitude that overall communicates that you're content and you love your life.
And happy and thankful for all the work that he does. Because guys work hard. Ladies, guys work hard. Yeah, I think thankful. In our culture today, sorry, I know you told me to go fast, but especially with the feminist mindset, we typically think of guys as lazy bums or,
Everybody loves Raymond.
I don't know. Everybody loves Raymond, but our guys work really hard for us.
How many points?
5,000.
All right.
How could I not give you 5,000 for that. Okay, well, I'm going to do my number 5 because it kind of just went off of something that I said. So men, my tip for you is to get off your phones or your devices or whatnot. Now, I was just thinking in general about things that I've seen in our culture. I'm not saying that this happens in our house because we don't have any devices. And I mean, we have a computer, but we don't have a TV and stuff like that. But I know that there's guys out there who are addicted to video games. Or I don't know, just their phones and looking at stuff. So
phones is a big one.
Men, I would, if you're in the same room as your wife, just put your phone down and hang out with her. Which we even have to do that with our phones, whether we get into a texting conversation or what it is, and we'll just be like, can we just spend time just together?
There's an article that came out about a week or two ago, and I can't remember the phrase it used. It was some invented word, but it's where you're in a conversation with your spouse, but you put them off because of the phone. There was some term for it, and it says it's raising the divorce rate. Like
really?
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so to go off of what my wife is saying, 5,000 points.
Woo!
When I became a man, the Bible says I put childish ways behind me. And not that screens are inherently evil. You know, if you're on YouTube, you're watching one right now. But men...
Be a man and get rid of it. It emasculates.
Yeah. Men don't serve entertainment.
Yeah.
Men serve wives. Men focus on wives and children. So put your devices down. I love that. 5,000 points, bonus 5,000 points.
Yes.
Okay, I'm on number 3. Okay, this is another run-on sentence, but I didn't know how else to say it. Okay, wives, some loving advice for my sisters. Number 3, take unnecessary activities and responsibilities off of your plate so you have the strength and focus to be a devoted wife and mom. So this is about many women I know, they're stretched too thin.
Like they have
all the, and so at the end of the day, they're like, oh, you know,
exhausted.
Fast food. I'm not saying it's sinful to get fast food, but you know what I mean? They're just throwing something on the table. Mm-hmm. They have no spiritual, emotional, physical, anything in reserve for their family. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't make for a good marriage.
Okay, so since Does
that make sense?
It does make sense, but I don't have a life outside my home. I hardly ever go anywhere. So like I can't be like, oh yeah, women, get rid of this and this. So like how would you, I'm assuming that you've run into this with marriage counseling, what would you recommend women? Because I'm sure women that are hearing this, they're volunteering at church or they're doing something for something. I don't even know all the examples because I have none.
I'm glad you asked. So
like
women,
what do you get rid of then?
Yeah. Okay. So women are two things that are in this equation. Women are, I think, more spiritually sensitive than men in the sense that they have more of a draw to serve the local community, get involved with a food shelter, get involved at church, which is all good stuff. But the second thing, you know, you were just reading to our kids this morning in their studies about how in the curse, the woman, part of the curse is the woman wants to thwart her husband's
to rule.
Leadership. Yeah, the wife isn't excited about biblical submission in her flesh or biblical wifehood, being devoted to your husband and to your family. So it's easy for good Christian women, their flesh is pulled more to service outside than service within the family. And I'm not even talking about geographically in the house. I'm talking about family and non-family. So there's more fleshly, temporary rewards in serving your church or community or your work than so whatever that might be.
So I have a tip then that I just thought of. If you've ever gone through our discipleship, which is free on Right Now Media, I think you can also buy it off of our website for like, I don't know, $20 or $30. But maybe get your priorities in order where you first make sure you have a good relationship with the Lord. And then have a good relationship and spending enough time with your husband and your kids, and then your church, and then your community.
Yeah, if you aren't absolutely
like if everything's going great, your personal walk with the Lord is amazing, your relationship with your husband is top notch, your kids are not rebelling.
And then you feel called to go out, you know, to be more involved in other spheres. Great, but if your home is chaotic and your marriage isn't where it needs to be, get rid of that stuff. Get the inside right. Okay, that was my number 3. Your number 5,000 points.
2,000. No, 5,000. Okay. No, I thought it was good. Okay, next one I have is find out your wife's love languages and pursue to do them. So, like I said earlier, every woman is different in their love language. So find out what your wife's love languages are. Usually there's
Can I say what yours
there's
are?
2 top ones, I would say. And then maybe some other ones will trickle in, but figure them out and do them.
So I think yours is quality time and acts of service.
Definitely quality time, acts of service, but I also would appreciate
Gifts.
womanly physical touch sometimes. A letter. Wait a minute. What's a letter?
Playing with hair.
Oh, wait. Is
That
that
would
word? Oh,
be
that's words of affirmation. Like, I mean, those other ones are good too. Like, I like words of
So,
affirmation.
men, husbands, this is my wife's tip for you. When I figured this out, that her love language, her top 2 were words of affirmation, acts of service and quality time. And I made those changes. So I was like, okay, I come home from work, say hi, give her a kiss, and help for 20 minutes around the house, and then say, hey,
Or
let's
just
sit
get a
down.
project that I have needed
Yeah.
in the house done.
And then spend time with the kids, whatever. But then make sure that we sit and talk to each other. All of a sudden, I've got a wife who is much more happy and full of joy, and she's feeling the love. You know what I mean?
And this doesn't have to be something like incredibly crazy too. Like, you don't have to go over the top. Like, Jared will sometimes bring me home like a kombucha from HEB. And it makes me feel really loved because he was thinking about me. So just find out, sit down, ask your wife how she feels the most loved, and do it.
5,000 points. Okay.
To 25,000.
Because I gave you the bonus? Mm-hmm. Okay. You're probably going to win. All right. Number 4.
Wait,
okay.
Are you in? Yeah.
Wait, you went first, though.
But I'm going to be on number 5 next. So you're number 4.
You've done 4? Okay.
I went out of order now, so I'm
Okay,
confused.
yeah. My number 4. Be devoted. Okay, so this is for wives. Be devoted to growing with God in biblical femininity. And let me just break that down, because the advice was going to be, hey, make sure, and you alluded to this earlier, make sure that you are walking with God. Like, that's where it begins. If we aren't walking with God, then we don't have the resources through His Spirit. We don't have the fruit of the Spirit, the love, joy, peace, patience, all the way down to self-control that we need. So walk with God. But I wanted to put a specific detail on that, because in today's day and age in the church, you can have sincere Christian women who are saying, yes, I'm focusing on my walk with God, but because of feminism infiltrating the ranks of God's people, their idea of walking with God isn't very practical. It doesn't really bleed over that much into marriage and the home. So I'm saying focus on your walk with God, and specifically growing in who God created you to be. Like, the advice for men, the counter advice for men would be, hey, learn what it means to be a man. And become a man, become a husband, learn what it means, and let that be your walk with God. Because if we don't have biblical targets, it can just become this fluffy, how do I feel? Oh, I feel good, and me and God are great, and when I worship, I have goosebumps. Nothing wrong with goosebumps when you worship, but do you see the point?
Yeah, so you're saying, I think, endeavor to have that gentle spirit, endeavor to respect and submit to your husband.
To be about the business of women.
Okay.
And let me just apply it to both genders, and for men to be about the business of men. So men, you need to grow in your walk with God, but specifically in the context of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a father. And the same thing for women with their roles. So that's good advice, right?
I like it.
Almost deserving of bonus points.
I don't know. Just because I'm competitive and I want
Fine.
to win.
We'll see how you do on this last one, Miss Competitive. Let's see what you got.
But then I give you points on your last one. We'll just say we're tied, I guess.
No, you'll win.
Okay, my last one, I really wasn't 100% sure, but I just threw it in there, which this could be for both men and women. But I just put, for my very last one, flirt and have fun. And
Love it.
I especially think the longer you're married, maybe the harder it is. Like, when you're
when you first get
together, it all
bubbly.
feels so good and whatnot. But then as you get married, like, I don't know, stuff might not be as exciting or whatever. But so we try to, when we're around each other, like, just have fun all the time.
Be best friends.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some practical examples. Like, we're just goofy a lot. We sing a lot. I'll go up and slap his hiney a lot.
No more examples. Yeah, have fun.
It's true, though. Have fun.
Yeah, Marriage is not.
Oh, except that was girl example. This is supposed to be to men, but still, guys need to do that to their ladies.
Well, guys can slap their ladies.
I know. Well, you do that with me sometimes, I guess.
Okay, moving on. Hey, that's 5,000 points. Bonus 50,000
points. Was that a good one,
points.
though?
Oh, yeah.
Did you like it?
Oh, yeah, because the point with that one is marriages are not what Hollywood says they are. They're not always this 24/7 romantic adventure or whatever. It is an adventure, but marriage is a friendship.
Yeah.
And so you're best friends with this person.
Yeah.
And you need to act like best friends.
Yeah.
Have fun. Yeah. Listen to each other. Have fun. Talk.
Yeah. Go out and
Laugh,
do fun
cry.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay, for my last one, wrapping this up with a pretty bow. Do you want to guess what the last one is?
No, I don't know.
Okay. This is advice one. I'm kind of embarrassed
Physical touch?
to say it. It's something physical.
I don't even see where it is.
Yeah, I know. I did it in code.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, well, here, I'm actually going to have it come from you because I think
Okay, where is it?
It's right, just for lack of propriety.
All right, practice having good intimacy. Not just having intimacy, but any couple can work and obtain a good sex life.
Yeah. So
I said intimacy twice when it doesn't really say.
So obviously, good advice for men and women, but I think even better for women is to practice having a good physical, intimate relationship. And the reason I said practice is the goal isn't just to have physical intimacy. There are couples that have physical intimacy out of obligation, out of duty, and it's not fun. Really, it's
that's
not meaningful.
Where you're flirting and have fun can kind of go
that's
into
where
that.
Intimacy begins with flirting and having fun.
And if you want to listen, what was that one talk that we did?
I think it's marriage and intimacy.
There's like a part 3, maybe called Marriage and Intimacy. We recommend a couple books, and because again, the longer you get married, you can either be comfortable with each other and it can be great, or you can get bitter and angry at each other and it just gets worse.
Yeah, and the main point that I want to say, and tell me if you agree with this, in my personal opinion, any couple, especially Christian couple, if they're committed to following God, and if they work at it, they can have a good physical, intimate marriage.
Well, yeah, especially like I said, if they've been married for 10, 15, 20 years, and they might let bitterness or whatnot creep in to get rid of that, which I think you have an audio on that too. Didn't you do one on bitterness, or are you going to do one on bitterness?
Oh, I'm going to.
Oh, okay, that's in the future. Stay tuned.
So how many points for that?
I don't even know where
Is that good advice?
5,000.
Was that
well,
good
yeah,
advice
because
for
I
me?
think 99.9% of men all have the same love language.
Ultimately. And do you think few or many women struggle with that aspect?
At least in 99.9% of the marriage counseling we've done, they have problems.
It's a big deal. So, but all things can be redeemed through Christ. So, hey, this was a fun game. You win.
Yay! What do I get? Ice cream?
Last tip, always let your wife win.
But then it's like you win by default, and it's not even fun. Yeah, she's too
competitive. All right, well, next time I'll try harder. I just let you win. All right, guys, so that is today's show on marriage, practical marriage tips. Hope you're able to glean something from this. I'm sure you have many tips. You can comment below and leave some good tips. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.